Back in black. I hit the sack. I bet you know I'm glad to be back. That's right. Just like AC/DC, this is the Lots of... no, this ain't the Lots of Laughs. I used to do radio. This is Funny Like a Clown podcast. I'm your host, Dennis Wirth, who used to do the Lots of Laughs comedy show on radio, but now I'm doing a podcast because, I got sick of radio and now I'm doing something different. Having lots of fun, though, man. Well, thank you guys for tuning in, and this is episode 39, November 10th, 2019, and we are here to discuss a legendary comedian. I love the old legends. These are the guys in a class of their own. Milton Berle, that's right, going way back to Milton Berle. As always, Funny Like a Clown podcast is brought to you by G Vegas Buffalo Sauce for the spicy, sweet, savory taste of game time. There's only one G Vegas. Check them out at www.gvegas.webs.com. Buy a bottle, man. There's nothing like homemade, and it's good homemade stuff. And I know I've been trying to pump out like one podcast a week, and it was going good. We were getting a good fan base, and it's been a few weeks. I've been doing them every other week and every third week, and I'm going to try to get back to them once a week. I got sleep apnea. There's the truth, okay? And scared the shit out of me. I feel like alien abduction. I tell you, I woke up Saturday at 10 a.m. I sat in my living room chair at 10 a.m. I started, thinking in my head, what am I going to do today? The next thing I know, I wake up in that same chair and it's 7 p.m., okay? So what the hell is up with that? That's like 9 hours of missing time. I assume I was asleep, but could have been an alien abduction. Maybe they took me, returned me at 7 p.m. I'll never know, folks. I just hope they didn't probe me anally or nothing like that if they did abduct me. That's all I can hope at this point. But no, I got sleep apnea. I don't sleep well, so basically I fall asleep anyway, But I'm gonna try to get one a week and get this thing going again. We're back inside. I'm back in the studio because it is colder than a witch's tit out here in New England, and because I'm back in the studio, I'm gonna start having guests on again. So hopefully this is I'm having comics choose the comics who inspired them that they want to talk about, and Milton Berle, he's in a class of his own, but you need somebody in their 70s that had Milton Berle inspire them to want to do comedy. So it's not someone to want to pick, but I have to review these guys because the people are picking, they wouldn't do their stuff unless guys like Milton Berle did their stuff first. There would be no stage set for the Chris Rocks and the George Carlins that everybody wants to talk to, because of this guy right here, Milton Berle. So let's get into it here, man. A Canadian actor, had an 80-year career in comedy. That's amazing. I mean, I'm into my 11th year, going into my 12th year, and, I really went at it hard, and I accomplished more in 10 years than most of the guys I started with. Most guys doing 20 or 30. But, I mean, to have an 80-year career, I'll never live that long. I didn't get started early enough in my life, and that's just amazing to do 80 years of what you love to do. That's a hell of a life right there. He started in silent film as a child. From there he went to radio. Radio back then, that was a big thing. The radio, TV, he was in the invention of TV, I guess you'd say. And, TV gave faces to characters that have been known for years on radio. I said this on one of my other podcasts. Superman was on radio for years. There was never a face to him because there was never no need to be. And then, they took that character who had been around for years on radio and put a face to him on television, okay? The Lone Ranger, he was around for years on radio. They put a face to him on television. So this guy became a face of television, the face of television, actually. He did radio, TV, and then films. And TV, where in radio all you hear is your voice. And, TV, it teaches you how to work a camera. And I had always heard that term, how to work a camera. Did you go to film school? Did you go to, you want to be an actor, you got to go to school to learn how to work a camera. I never knew what that meant until I did a local TV show, the Comedy Kitchen. And I had some big-time guests on there. I mean, Lenny Clark, Steve Sweeney, Tom Cotter, Jimmy Walker, Jackie the Joke Man, Carl LeBove, Stuttering John Melendez. For a local TV show, I had some amazing guests, but I understood what they meant by work the camera, because if you go back and look at the earlier episodes, we went in there, we took a class on how to run the television equipment, and boom, you're off, So you got to find your own crew. I had some friends of mine with a crew, and it just... the earlier episodes, they looked local. You could tell, I'd be shooting like the side of my head while I'm trying to talk to you this way, and I should be talking this way, and it's like when to look at the camera, when not to look at the camera, when you should, and I understood, the later episodes started to look professional, and I understood what it meant by learning to work a camera, but when this guy was around Milton Berle, okay, there were silent films and stuff like that, but TV was a new thing, and they actually said it was a fad. That it was like radio was the thing. They're gonna try television. Yeah, they'll do it for a few months. Everybody gets sick of it, then we'll all go back to radio. Well, we know that didn't turn out right. Everybody went to the TV, and they say the only reason radio is around now is because people in their car, you can't drive and watch TV at the same time, so you have to listen to radio. And I think that's why podcasts are taking off too, because TV's becoming a thing of the past. Not that you don't watch it, but people watch it on their computer, and podcasts you can listen to those while you go surf the computer and do something else at the same time. So while you can listen to it don't need your full attention. You can be doing something else at the same time, and that's what we're becoming, is multitasking. Let's see, Milton Berle was the host of NBC's Texaco Star Theater from 1948 to 55. That was where, he made his huge name as the face of television. He was television's first star, okay? After radio, he was known as, to millions, as Uncle Milty and Mr. Television during the golden age of TV. I mean, this was when, TV was first invented. I mean, somebody had to be the first star, and he was it. So he set the bar on TV everybody else had to live up to. And, to this day, it's still, he's the guy who started it all, I mean, you want to top the best, he's the guy who started it. If you go back and back and back. But like I said, he was he was TV star, but before that you had the radio star, you had, Broadway stars when they did a hallway, when you did live, halls and stuff like that, burlesque shows, who was the best on that. I mean, plays have been going on forever, okay? They took the plays, the story from the plays, they took the radio, the stories from radio, they took to TV. These stories have been going on for years. It's just what's a different way that you want to tell them, 1913, he started as a child actor. He won the Charlie Chaplin Award at the age of 5. So, as big as he was in TV, there was always a guy before him, and that guy was Charlie Chaplin, okay, who was master of silent film. As a child actor, he starred in some silent films himself. That was how he got his start, was in silent films as a kid. You imagine a 5-year-old kid getting you started in silent films? Let's see, he did the Perils of Paul Dean, Tess of the Storm and Country, Birthright, Love's Penalty, Divorce Coupons, Ruth on the Range. These silent films, it said to live the trips out to Hollywood. Now this guy's taking trips to Hollywood at age 5 after doing some local silent films, and there he got to perform in Rebecca of Sunnybrook Farm with Mary Pickford, The Mask of Zorro with Douglas Fairbanks, and Telly's Punctured Romance with the man himself, Charlie Chaplin. So, I mean, here's a guy at 5 who did some local stuff, did so good there, went out to Hollywood, and he got to be, I'm sure there were small roles, but you're still small roles with the biggest actors of the time. That's a heck of a platform to start on right there. And I think back to, the guy in, I don't know if you're a Big Bang Theory or not, but if you watch the Big Bang Theory, the guy who played Leonard there, before he played Leonard on there, with the #1 show on TV, he was on Roseanne. He played, one of the Roseanne's daughter's boyfriend's love interest there. He was on there. That was a #1 show, But I go way back when he was on, Young Guns 2, I think. He was the young kid in there who wanted to be, ride with the outlaws. He wanted to be an outlaw when he grew up. So here's a guy who paid his dues with small roles and built it up to the #1 show on TV. So everybody has to start somewhere. Let's see. 1920, he made his stage debut in Atlantic City. That led to roles on Broadway, which we were just talking about. Broadway, a lot of stories from there get, made into movies and stuff, and vice versa. By 16, he was working as master of ceremonies in vaudeville. By the 1930s, he was a successful stand-up comedian. And, 1933, he was doing theatrical features. From 1934 to 36, he was a regular on the Rudy Valley Hour and Community Sing. So, here's a guy, he started out doing some local stuff, he went to the major cities, he did some stuff in the major cities. This is getting him connected to Hollywood. That's why, I've been watching lately because I made a short film about Sam Kinison. Watch it, it's on YouTube, from Preacher to Prophet, a Sam Kinison story. And, it was a short, but it was a small budget film. But the recognition I got from that and the fun I had from that, it's going to lead me to do something bigger. And I got a lot of praise for doing it. I caught a lot of flack from idiots. Got nothing better to do than go on Facebook and kick you down no matter what you do. But you got to start somewhere. Nobody starts at the top. And I paid tribute to, the guy who got me started in comedian, why I wanted to do comedy. And I was so proud of the tribute. I didn't really care what anybody thought. I did it for myself, and I was so happy with it. And I did get a lot of praise, and I can't wait to do the next one. But nobody walks into Hollywood and says, "Hey, I'm going to star." Who are you? I'm Mr. Nobody. I've done nothing. I'm gonna be a star. You got to start somewhere, and we live in a day and age. We're lucky with YouTube and stuff like that, where you don't need someone to give you a break. You can make your own break. If you want to work hard, go make your own. You know what? You got a movie you want to make. You got YouTube. You got a home video camera. Go make it. What's stopping you? It's not like in the old days, where this equipment, and editing software, you can buy a program for your computer is almost as good as what they're using in TV now, or is as good. So there's nothing stopping you from doing what you love except for you. Don't let the industry control you anymore. Where in the olden days, the industry really, someone, had to give you a break, or you had to bribe your way in there. I saw a thing with Ron Howard, from Happy Days, and he went on to be a great director, and he said, in the olden days, nobody'd give you a break directing. It would be like, well, I got these people, they want to invest in a movie, but they'll only invest if you let me direct, okay? I mean, that's how you made your way in. So here's a guy, Milton Berle, he paid his dues, started at 5, started locally, went, big locally, went nationally, radio, TV, plays, before he, finally made his big name. And I guess I say that because a lot of these young comics, I book comedy shows and they want to start at the top. They want to headline their first night out. It's like, no, man, you want to be a successful comic, it's years of paying your dues. You don't start at the top in any field whatsoever. And sometimes I go off on Facebook. It aggravates me so bad because nobody seems to get it. Everybody seems to think, man, I start right at the top, and if you don't let me, you're the jerk. You're the jerk for not starting me at the top, not for putting me in my place, but... hey, I needed someone to put me in my place when I was a young comic, and certainly you got to do the same thing after that. So, after he was a regular on the Rudy Valley Hour and Community Sing, he was a host of Stop Me If You Heard This One, which was, he'd start telling a joke, and he'd see if anybody else could come up with the punchline for the joke. So, and I refer that to Jackie the Joke Man from the Howard Stern Show. He's a touring comedian, and he has a thing called Stump the Joke Man, which if you can stump the joke man, you win a t-shirt or something. But everybody thought he was the first guy doing that, and he wasn't the first guy. That's probably closed down. You guys probably hear me a little better. I don't know. Hopefully you heard me good. But, this is stuff that, has been doing before him, and it's just you find a different way to do it, And they say that stuff about, like, Star Wars. Star Wars, those are stories that have been told for years, okay? But the only difference to George Lucas was he told the same story, but he told it in space. And that's what made it so big, okay? It was all stories that, have been told for years, but he told it in space, which that was what made Star Wars so big. I recently brought up, what one would you rather see, Star Wars or Harry Potter? And someone said, well, I'd like to see the one about the young kid who don't want to be a hero but is forced to be a hero, who's taught by an old wise man. And basically, you went out like Star Wars and Harry Potter was the same movie. It was just told in a different way. One was in space and one was with a wizard. But I kind of got a kick out of that, which it was truth. It's, what's your vision? What do you want to tell? What's the story that's in your head? Let's see. In the 1940s, he canceled some well-paying gigs, okay, because he was doing this stuff on radio and TV now, this is his smaller stuff, that he was canceling, like, his live gigs as comedians so that he could expand his stuff on radio, his radio career. And, you say, why would he do that? Why would he turn down money where he's probably making little to no money on radio? Well, the comics that do Saturday Night Live, they only get paid like $1,000 for their appearance. They don't get paid a lot of money. But I mean, the notoriety from being on Saturday Night Live, that's where they make the money in the clubs. That's why people are coming out to see him at the clubs, because of the notoriety that show's giving him. So he's turning down some decent paying gigs so he could stay on radio to little no money, because he knew he was hitting a bigger audience, and that would eventually pay off for him in the end, where more people would come to see him in the end because of the time he did on radio. There's a smart man where a lot of people would have went for the immediate money right there, But let's see. Some of the radio shows he did was 3 Ring Time and Let Yourself Go. The Milton Berle Show, which actually started on radio, and to this day he said that in his whole career, the Milton Berle Show on radio, that was, the best thing that he ever did in his career, comedy-wise, that they really had They had, it wasn't just him. He had his sidekicks and his whole radio crew. And, you you can accomplish more as a team than you can ever as an individual, but you got to find the people, who want to be on the same page, a team, that works well together. Like, the Boston Celtics, they won so many championships because they put the team before themselves, where a lot of players, they want to put up the points and get all the stats, but they lose, okay? So can you find a team that's going to put the team before the individual? And that's what they did in radio. They found a team. I had Jackie the Joke Man in the Comedy Kitchen, and he talked about that. I asked, do you regret leaving the show? And he said, I mean, he's still doing good for himself, but it's not often that you hit a it's not half when you hit something special like that in comedy, or in any field where you hit something special, where something clicks, where everybody wants to tune you in. Instead of appreciating what you got, then everybody wants to be me, me, me. Well, I'm going to leave the show and do my own thing. Like, when Simon Cowell left American Idol, he couldn't be thankful that it was the #1 thing and biggest thing. No, I got to do my own thing. I got to be the star. I don't want to share it with the other two judges. And, I hate that, like in bands and music, when a band, they play forever in bars and they finally get big, and then once they get big, none of them can stick together. Very few bands, this one leaves and replaced with this one and that one. It's like, if you told the old guy playing the bars you'd have this kind of success, would you break up then? But everybody wants to be the solo star. Nobody wants to share the stardom. And when you hit something like that, keep it because it's magical. And that's why he said it was the best work he ever did, because they hit magic, and it's not easy to hit magic in this business. Let's see, in 1929, he appeared on an experimental broadcast for TV. So they were experimenting with TV. They did it in Chicago for 129 people. This is when radio was the thing, and hey, we're going to test TV to 129 people in Chicago to see what they think of it, whether they like it better than radio or not. 20 years after that, he returned as TV's first star. This was, I guess the test worked out, and hey, we're going to go with this. He hosted Texaco Star Theater, as we said, and that was like the America's Got Talent of the time. It got 97% of the Nielsen ratings. Can you imagine that? 97% of the people watching TV watched his show on the night it was on. And you don't see stats like that anymore, even with the popular shows. They had 97%. That's almost unheard of. That's all of America's watching your show. So that's why he was Mr. Television right there. Texaco's sales doubled because of the show. So, I mean, when you're getting that kind of promotion, everybody's watching, you're promoting your product. That's how TV works, that's what pays the bills of the sponsors, okay? And Texaco was sponsoring it, and they made their money back from sponsoring that show double-fold. He had a clash with the sponsors at one point about having black acts on his show, and went back and forth. At Texaco, they didn't want to sponsor because back then it was the big racism time. And finally, he said, you know what? If the guests I book don't go on, then I don't go on. And finally, they gave in, and he got to have on who he wants. So there's a man who made a stand at the time that, hey, you know what? If you're talented, you're talented. It don't matter what color you are, and I'm going to make a stand. So hats off to him. And I'll go back to Ed Sullivan with the Beatles. Ed Sullivan said the Beatles will never be on his show, ever. The Beatles became so popular. They were so good, he couldn't ignore them anymore. He had to put them on the show, even though he said they'd never be on. So that's how the Beatles got on, and that's how some black people got on Uncle Milty's show there, because he went to bat for him. So great for him. 1960, he got his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. And now for today, this would be a lot of money, but can you imagine for back then? He got a $1 million a year contract from NBC and gave him an unprecedented 30-year contract. Now, you don't see that stuff in any field. A 30-year contract for $1 million a year. And that's, back then money, and that's a lot of money now, never mind back then. So it shows you how big this guy was, how much Texaco was making. But as in anything, I mean, a 30-year span, I don't care who you listen to, I don't care how good they are, 30 years is a long time, and it's always the next up-and-coming star is going to take a little bit from you. Nobody, I don't care how good you are, it's very rare you can stay on top forever. His show did start to slide, and eventually Texaco pulled its sponsorship out. Then Buick took over, the Buick car maker. You got to pay the bills, so they took over, took a chance on him. I think they lasted for 2 years, and finally they pulled out a sponsor, and his ratings kept falling. And before he finally got canceled, He actually, once he got canceled from there, he got demoted. He was doing Jackpot Bowling, which is a bowling show about bowlers, and in between the bowlers sets, he got to interview like one of the stars, and it was really, it was, I guess, embarrassing. When you're on top like that, you don't want to do something small like that. At the same time, you got to pay the bills. You still want to be in the limelight. You see some of the stars of yesterday and today. They're doing like home insurance commercials, and they're trying to sell you home insurance. I saw the Fonz, I think, was on one of the trying to sell you home insurance. I'm like, the Fonz is selling homeowners insurance, but hey, the guy's got bills to pay. I mean, Hollywood was good money, but it ain't the money of today, and you take what role you can get, even if it's not, nobody stays on top forever. Um, let's see. So after the jackpot bowling, but then time goes by and you're still remembered for your greatness, and even after you're still remembered for your greatness, the next generation, they want to pay tribute, they want to be a part of you. So even after that, he'd still pack Vegas. I mean, that's where a lot of once you've hit the you go to Vegas. Once the big time has failed you, then you go off to Vegas. But he was still packing, people come out to see his comedy. He could fill a room from his notoriety from the shows he did, even though he wasn't on TV anymore. And other than packing Vegas, this is where he really made his comeback. Was he did guest spots on numerous TV shows because, like I said, the comics of today, they only do what they do because the comics of yesterday. And the comics of today paid respect to this guy for what he did for them, setting the stage. And I take you back to the Big Bang Theory again, where they brought Bob Newhart. They brought him on as Professor Proton or whatever he was. But it was such a great tribute to one of the greatest comedians of our time that even in the twilight, the young kids remember him from the childhood, and they wanted to bring him on and still touch his comedy, And they did this with Uncle Milty. I mean, this is only a few I can name. I could go on and on, but Chips, I Dream of Jeannie, The Muppet Show, Fantasy Island, F Troop, Get Smart, The Sonny and Cher Show, the Jackie Gleason Show. I could go on and on, but he was just a guest on everything because everybody wanted to touch that greatness that he had from their childhood. He's in the Guinness Book of World Records for the most charity performances, and again, hats off to him because I do a lot of charity events. And I love to help people out. That's why, and a lot of people, there's a lot of comics who'd rather make $100. I'd rather make 25, pay my expenses, and give 75 to charity. And I do a lot of these because not only because I like to help charity, but the comics that I work with, and they're willing to do that, I know those are good people, and those are the people I want to work with. I want to work with the good people. I don't want to work with, the people who are just in it for themselves. That's not my kind of people. So if they don't want to do one of my shows because it's for charity and they're not making the big bucks, I don't want them on my show. That's someone, go do someone else's show. You're not the kind of person I want to do comedy with. If you're a person, hey, I'll take a little bit less to help out charity. I'm constantly surrounded by good people. Those are the good people I want to work with. So, it wasn't well publicized because they said, he didn't do the big Bob Hope TV thing where, he made a big spectacle of him helping out charity. It was a behind the scenes thing where he just did it because he loved to help out charity. Not that he wanted, which nothing against Bob Hope. I mean, that was what he did. And, he raised tons of money by doing it. And any way you raise money, that's why people show up, because you advertise. So there's nothing wrong with advertising that you help out charity, because that's it, puts butts on the seats as advertising. But here's a guy, I mean, in the Guinness Book of World Records, how much of himself did he give? Here's one I didn't even know about him. 1979, he hosted Saturday Night Live, which I'll have to go back and look that episode up and watch it because I had no idea. Uncle Milty hosted Saturday Night Live in 79. But from there, he got a reputation that he was hard to work with, okay, which I understand because he was TV's first star, and I know, a lot of local comics, when you're put on a comedy show, and I book a lot of big names, the first thing they're going to tell you, the big names in their contracts, is all the opening acts have to work clean. They can't work dirty. And it's like, then they go up there, and they do all kinds of dirty jokes, and it's like, the reason is, okay, they paid their dues. They want to be the star. They don't want someone before them getting more laughs than them and them not being the star. They've paid their dues. They want to be the star. They're not going to let anybody else steal a show from them. And Milton was like that. He didn't want any of the actors on Saturday Night Live being more funny than him. You called me here to be the star, let me be the star. And it's actually cost me some work because, I mean, a lot of guys I used to open with, they won't use me anymore because I'm starting to get more. I'm the opener, and I'm starting to get more laughs than them. Well, they don't want me getting more laughs than them, so they don't book me anymore to open for them. So, I can headline, but as far as opening work, there's a lot more work for opener than there is headliner. You can get too funny for your own good in this business, where you're getting less work because you're too funny. Where if you stay mildly funny and let them be the star, you work a whole lot more. So, kind of a trick to the trade. You do comedy, you can't get too funny, or you work less. So that's a tough one on the local level even to deal with. But he had a tiff with Richard Pryor. I know that he had a fall. Him and Richard Pryor were on a show together, and Milton was saying something, and Richard laughed at it, and he's like, "Oh, hey, pick and choose your time to think things are funny." Richard, right back at you. He wasn't taking any shit from the guy, but he had a tip for Richard Pryor. I remember a thing on Hollywood Squares. They had him on. If you were the center square, he was the center square. That was the big celebrity spot, and then all the smaller celebrities went to the outer squares because tic-tac-toe, you always start with the center spot. It's the center of power, so. And he came out complaining about everything. I ain't got a good dressing room. There's no food in my dressing room. I need this. I need that. Do you know who you are? I'm big star Milton Berle. Finally, the guy said, you know what? You're right. The director of the show, you're too big of a star for us. Go ahead home. You're way too big to be on our show. He's like, who you think I'm talking to? I'm Milton Berle. I'm going to be on this show. You get ready for me. You better get ready for me. So he just, some people, they don't forget where they come from, and some, they turn into this big star, and they don't want anybody else outstaging them, and which I somewhat understand. But if it turns you into a jerk, then you kind of cross the line there too. You always make way for the next generation. I understand you want to stay on top, but don't do it to the point where you're kicking down other people that you won't give them their chance to ever reach the top either. So let's see. Now here's one where more our generation is going to remember for, and I get a lot of comments on this one. In 1984, he appeared in drag for the Rat video, Round and Round. You remember that video on MTV? And Uncle Milty, they were upstairs. What's all the noise up there? They're playing the guitar, and he was a guy and the girl, and let's go upstairs. And okay, let's go up. And it was one of the better known videos the Rat did, and it was a really good tribute to show him at work even later in his age, just how talented that he was, that he'd be remembered for something. 1992, he was on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, which he was on one episode there, which I didn't know about that either. So, like I said, even in your old age, when you're doing cameos to the people that respected your work, it's always good. Don't forget the guys who paved the way for you. So, he was on Beverly Hills 90210. Here's what I know. In 1947, he founded the Friars Club from an old hotel that was out there. So all these celebrity roasts and everything you see, who knew it was Uncle Milty who founded the Friars Club, who originally started doing the celebrity roasts. So there's another one we got to pay tribute to him too. Another fun fact about him, I found this one was hilarious. When he was doing his TV show in Chicago, they saw between the hours of 9 o'clock and 9:05, there was like this huge drop in water in their water reservoir, and it actually led to a police investigation of why the water was dropping so much from 9 o'clock to 9:05. And they said the reason was everybody would watch Uncle Milty's show when they wouldn't go to the bathroom. They'd hold it till it was over. Then when it was over, everybody run for the bathroom, and everybody went to the bathroom when the show was over from 9 to 9:05, and that's why the water was dropping so much from 9. The police had to investigate it in Chicago and figure it out. So how popular is your show? Nobody's going to the bathroom. Then there's a drop in the water level because they all go to the bathroom once it's over. That was hilarious, I thought. His last performance was Two Heads Are Better Than None. And then he ended up dying of colon cancer in 2002. So what a legendary actor. And, as always, I go to the people here and we see what the fans had to say about him. And fans, some of these things I post, and I think I'm going to get a lot of comments about it, and some I post, like, they're not going to remember this guy, but, Milton's one guy where I posted this, where I wasn't expecting the fans to say a lot about him, and the fans actually had a lot to say about him, so I thank you for the fans for writing in there. And now, if I can get my connections working here. Alright, well, this was loading, okay, because heaven forbid anything go easy for me here, on a podcast, right? You wouldn't want that to happen. I will remind you that our show is brought to you by G Vegas Buffalo Sauce, and this stuff's good, folks. I'm telling you, man, if you like buffalo sauce like I do, If you order out, it is absolutely not as good as what you can get homemade. And this stuff is homemade. It is fresh. It is happening. Just like I'm fresh, I'm happening. And I'll give you a hint on my next project. Well, I'm still trying to get this to load. I told you the short film about From Preacher to Prophet, a Sam Kinison story. My next project is to make a full-length film about a character. It was the first character I tried, and it was the first routine I wrote in stand-up comedy, called the child support superhero. It was a character I invented in reference to child support. Actually, I made a page about him on Facebook. I got 12,000 followers. I had one of the posts go viral, hit 3.5 million people, which I don't even know what percentage of the planet that is, but a hell of a lot of people. From that, I got 12,000 likes on the page, and now, I remember Stan Lee saying, for the superheroes, with great power comes great responsibility. Well, he's now, every post I make from that page is hitting between 5 and 15,000 people, so that's a heck of a lot of people. So I got to be responsible now at what I post, and I try to put information out there and let the people decide, if it's something they want to. I let them duke it out. I don't get involved with the arguments. I let them argue and let them have their say about, because everybody's got a different point of view on facts, And boy, I'd like to give you the point of views on Uncle Milty here, but for whatever reason, my computer's not getting a strong signal here, and I can't bring up what these people have to say, which is kind of sucking because it was some good stuff. Stick with me here, man, alright? Because I should have had this going beforehand, alright? What is the problem here? I can sing you Rats Round and Round, round and round. What comes around goes around. I'll tell you why. Looking at you, looking at me, the way you move, it's easy to see. The neon lights are on. Now I'm gonna get some fucking. I'll put this thing on YouTube, and YouTube will fucking send me some. Oh, you're using Rats fucking lyrics, and we gotta ban it or something. Like I'm fucking sounding like Stephen Pierce or something from Rat. That's the crazy shit they do over there because everybody's offended by something nowadays. Well, this just fucking sucks right here, man. I got all kinds of footage to tell you guys, and I can't connect to the internet. You gotta be shitting me. Tell me you're shitting me, folks. Well, you can listen to me bullshit with you if you want, I guess. I don't know what to tell you. Alright, wait. Maybe I found a back door in. Maybe I haven't. No, I can see me. I can't see any of the friggin' footage here. See, this is my fucking podcast. You gotta know when to hold them and know when to fold them, just like Kenny Rogers says, right? I mean, any other time I would get a fucking connection. But not when I tell you guys. Alright, what are we on? We're at 33 minutes. Alright, you guys don't mind staying. Well, hey, if you want to fucking leave, you can leave. If you want to stay. Alright, well, I know one of them was, a lot of people made a comment that he was well endowed. He was known for having a big schlong, okay? And I don't know how it came along. I know, like, Rodney Dangerfield, he used to show up at the Comedy Store in a bathrobe, and it's like he'd have on his boxer shorts with, the pee hole there, and every now and then people would catch a glimpse of how big the guy was. Well, Uncle Milty, he was known for having a big old schlong, okay? And, the joke was somebody once told him, feed that thing before it hurts somebody. He was on a show one time where somebody challenged him to who had the bigger dong contest. And they're like, whip it out right now. And he's like, no. And Jackie Gleason said, you don't have to take the whole thing out. Just take out enough to beat him. And everybody started cracking up. And Milton said that was the best one-liner he had ever heard from Jackie Gleason. Just take out enough to beat him. You ain't going to take the whole thing out, So, who was it? Comedian Bob Goutreau. He chimed in that his mother, I don't know what kind of twisted family this was, but he said that his mother actually bought a hooker for him one time. And he said the hooker was like throwing a pee down the some tunnel or something like that, which if he's as well endowed as he was, I mean, that's saying something that, that this woman must have been wider than a tunnel, I guess. If a guy that big and he can't feel nothing, there's a woman. You ever have one of those moments you just want to smash a fucking computer? I'm having that moment right now. I had about 15 fucking comments, and I can't bring up a fucking one because of the piece of shit internet. And to say it's upsetting me, I guess would be an understatement now, wouldn't it? Yeah. Somebody else brought up his appearance on a Mad World, and that show's actually brought up a few comics. They mentioned that was a groundbreaking show to have him on right there. As we mentioned, Rat, that was the most popular one right there. Geez, I'm trying to remember. I didn't think I'd have to remember because I figured I'd have this shit. All right, you know what? Fuck the internet. Fuck cable. Fuck Comcast. They can kiss my ass because if you pay to be connected, you should be connected. But Comcast, then you call and you want to break on the bill and they got every fucking excuse. So fuck Comcast. And, they don't sponsor my fucking podcast, so fuck them. But, hey, the guy was well endowed and he had one hell of a career, just like I hope to have one hell of a career here on Funny Like Clown Podcast. Hey, tune in. I'm going to start having guests on again, and hopefully we're paying some good tribute to some great comedians. And we've been doing the older ones. I did the George Burns and the Jonathan Winters, now the Milton Berles. Now maybe we'll get back to some of the mainstream comics that, comics will start choosing nowadays. So, hey, I'm going to say cheers to everybody online. I'm going to go drink my beer and, till I see you again, keep laughing because laughter is the best medicine. And tell your friends about Funny Like a Clown Podcast, and we'll see you next time. Good night.